basically been doing these since pre-algebra. So x is, what does that symbol say? Good. Greater than -3. Domain of real numbers. So real numbers is a solid line. If it's integers, that's what you put points on each integer. Okay, but real numbers is a solid line. So for x is greater than -3, do you guys remember this symbol meaning open or closed circle? Good. You remember. So we've got an open circle. If there's a line underneath, closed circle, right? All right, so open circle on -3. Greater than -3 means shade to the right. So we're going to go this way. Make sure you have an arrow on it. All right. So now we've got the trichotomy and transitive axioms. It sounds really hard. Trichotomy means 3 things, and if it's not 2 of them, then it's the other one. So this first thing says -x is not less than or equal to 4. So if -x is not less than or equal to 4, then it has to be what? Greater than. So it's taking out 2 options and leaving only the third option. So the first thing you always do when it has the not symbol is flip it. Okay? And again, if it's not less than or equal to, then it's only greater than. So it takes out the or equal to sign. How many of you guys remember this from Algebra 1? Coming back to you? Okay, good. And then we have a negative in front of x. That's basically a -1. We have to divide both sides by -1. And whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, do you guys remember what happens? Takes out as negative, and you have to flip the inequality sign. So now we have less than. So really important that first we flip it for the not and change whether there's a line underneath. And then we have to flip it for the negative after that. Okay? So now I have x is less than -4. So -4 is not included. And we have a domain of integers. Be careful that you look at your domain. What's the first integer that is less than -4? -5. This is not a very good number line. Okay? So -5, and then we would have -6, -7, right? So all those integers going less than. So do at least a few points, and the last one should have an arrow. This does go forever to the left, forever less than, and we start at the one that is less than -4, which is -5, and it has to be an integer, right? That's why we're not doing a solid line. Okay. Go ahead and write this one down. -x minus 4 is not greater than or equal to -2 with the domain of negative integers. Lots of things to think about in this one. Okay? First thing is to always get rid of the not symbol. So if it's not greater than or equal to, what is it? Less than. So I would always write it out from my book. First thing is make that less than. Now we have to solve. What's the first thing we do to solve? You have to add 4 first to both sides, right? So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I have -x is less than 2. Okay, and again, we're dividing by a negative. You're going to do this a lot. You will see this probably on the ACT. So it's really important to remember that when you divide by a negative, you flip the inequality sign. So x is greater than -2. All right, so greater than -2, but check out the domain. Okay, what numbers are greater than -2? What integers, I guess? -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, but the domain says what? So what is the only answer? negative 1. The only answer, because it is both greater than negative 1 and it's a negative integer. So if I were to start shading all those points to the right, then they wouldn't be in my domain because they wouldn't be negative integers. All right? This has a lot of places to make mistakes, but it's not hard. So take your time, okay, and make sure you get all those little things. Okay. We started this one yesterday. We had kind of easy ones yesterday. Now we have irrational roots. So watch and see what happens. Okay, again, this right here on the top is a circle. And right here we have a line. So we're still finding where the circle and the line cross. Okay, so we're going to use substitution again. So I'm going to add x to the other side because that's probably the easiest thing to solve for is y. So y is equal to x plus 1, which is what we did yesterday. And then we're going to substitute in for y. So x plus 1 gets plugged in for y right here. So I have x squared plus, replace the y with x plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and write it side by side since it's squared. So we have to FOIL this out. So I have x squared, and this would give me x squared. My outside is 1x, and my inside is 1x, so that would be 2x. And my last is 1. Anytime you have a quadratic, set it equal to 0. See if you can factor it. So x squared plus x squared is 2x squared. Then I have plus 2x. And we do need to subtract 11 from both sides. So negative 10 gives me 0. There is a GCF. What can we factor out of all of that? A 2. Okay. Is there anything that multiplies to negative 5 and adds to 1? No. Okay, this one does not factor. So when you get to one that does not factor, you have to use the quadratic formula. Okay. So this 2, you guys don't need to worry about. You can do it without the 2. If you do it on this step, you'll get the same answer if you use A, B, C, but it's going to be smaller numbers and easier if you use A, B, C on the second line. Okay? So our A is going to be 1, our B is 1, and our C is negative 5. All right? So x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared, which is 1, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is negative 5, all over 2 times A, which is just so now I have negative 1 plus or minus. This becomes a positive 20 because I have a negative times a negative. So plus 20 and then a 1 plus 20, so I get 21 over 2. Okay, you have to write these as 2 separate answers. One with the positive, one with the negative, because this is actually going to be 2 coordinate points. So the first coordinate point, and I'm going to split this up so they're both divisible by 2 here, is negative 1/2 plus the square root of 21 over 2. That's just the x part of the coordinate. So there's a plus on that side. And then this one's going to be negative 1/2. Now I'm going to do the minus square root of 21 over 2, comma, something. Okay, how do we go back and find the y? We have to plug that in. Ugh, right? Okay, so we come back up here where y is by itself. y is equal to x plus 1, right? So x, meaning that really fun thing we just got, negative 1/2 plus the square root of 21 over 2. We're adding 1 to that. Which part does the 1 actually add to? Only the negative 1/2. Okay, you can't add the radical part together. So I'm going to add the negative 1/2 and the positive 1. What's 1 minus 1/2? It's 1/2. So we get 1/2 plus the square root of 21 over 2. So that's the y part of the coordinate down here. 1/2 plus square root of 21 over 2. Okay, then we have to plug in the other one, which was the same thing except for with a minus in the middle. So come back up here, and we're going to plug in the x part of the coordinate. Only this time we have a minus sign here. Okay, which parts actually add together? Negative 1/2 and 1. So what's 1 minus 1/2? Still 1/2. Same thing it was last time, but we have minus square root of 21 over 2. Okay, so 1/2 minus square root of 21 over 2. So the rational, irrational